I know better than most how hard it is to set boundaries with family. As a chartered psychologist specialising in family estrangement and as someone who's lived it myself. So believe me when I say this, saying no doesn't make you selfish. It's the fastest way to stop resenting the people you love. And I didn't learn that from quotes or podcasts. I learned it the hard way, through burnout, chronic people pleasing, and the guilt that came every time I chose myself. So, if you're tired of over-explaining, over-giving, and still feeling like the bad guy, let's break down the exact mindset shift that helped me set boundaries while staying clear and grounded. I'm Dr. Sam, a chartered psychologist with over a decade of clinical experience. In this video, I'll give you practical, psychology-backed tools to set boundaries with family and actually stick to them. Let's start with something that might surprise you. If you find yourself people-pleasing around family, it's not because something's wrong with you. It's because your nervous system learned early on that keeping the peace was the safest option. When we people-please around family, it doesn't feel like a choice, it feels automatic. For example, your mum asks if you're coming over on Sunday, you're already exhausted and want the day to yourself, but your body tenses and you hear yourself saying yes before you've even thought about it. That's not weakness, that's your nervous system stepping in, doing what it learned years ago. Keep the peace, stay connected, avoid fallout. And only later do the resentment and burnout show up, once the threat has passed. When we're young and dependent on our caregivers for survival, our brains become incredibly skilled at reading the emotional temperature of the room and adjusting our behaviour accordingly. If being the helpful one, the agreeable one, or the one who never caused problems kept us safe and connected, our nervous system filed that away as essential information. The challenge is that your adult brain knows you're capable and independent, but your nervous system is still running on that old programming that says keeping everyone happy equals staying safe. And this is why setting boundaries with family can trigger such intense physical reactions like a racing heart, sweating palms, or that awful feeling in your stomach. And understanding this helps us approach boundary setting with more compassion for ourselves. You're not weak for struggling with this. You're actually dealing with a deeply embedded protective pattern that once actually served you very well. Now, let's talk about guilt, because if you're someone who struggles with family boundaries, you're probably familiar with that heavy, uncomfortable feeling that shows up the moment you even think about saying no. Here's what I want you to understand. Guilt is a learned emotional signal, not proof that you're doing something wrong. Many of us learned early that having needs or preferences that differed from our family's expectations was somehow selfish or hurtful. We might have been told that directly, or we might have absorbed it through the messages around us, such as the reactions, sighs, or withdrawn affection when we simply didn't comply with family demands. And that guilt you feel when setting boundaries isn't your moral compass telling you you're being a bad person. It's often just your nervous system's alarm bell going off because you're doing something that feels unfamiliar or potentially threatening to your connection with others. The key is learning to recognize guilt as information rather than instruction. So when guilt shows up, instead of automatically changing course, pause and ask yourself, what boundary am I trying to set? Is this reasonable? Does this align with my values and needs? And if the answer is yes, the guilt is likely just the discomfort of growth, not a reason to abandon the boundary. So let's get practical with some scripts and internal checkpoints that can help you navigate these conversations. First, let's talk about the internal work. Before you even open your mouth, check in with your body. Notice any tension, any shallow breathing, racing thoughts. Take a few deep breaths and remind yourself that having needs doesn't make you selfish. Here's a simple internal checkpoint. Ask yourself, if this situation involved a friend instead of family, what would I do? Often we can see clearly what's reasonable when family dynamics aren't clouding our judgment. For actual conversations, start with simple, clear language. Instead of over-explaining or justifying your boundary, try phrases like, I won't be able to do that, or that doesn't work for me. And if you're pressed for reasons, you can say, I've thought about it and this is what I've decided. So when dealing with guilt, trips or pushback, you might say, I understand you're disappointed and I care about our relationship, and this boundary is important for me to be my best self in this relationship. Remember, you don't need to convince anyone that your boundary is valid. You just need to communicate it clearly. If someone accuses you of being selfish, you can respond with, I'm learning to take better care of myself so I can show up better for the people I love. And this reframes self-care as something that ultimately benefits the relationship rather than damages it. Let's acknowledge something that rarely gets talked about: the exhaustion of being the reasonable one. If you're watching this, chances are you're the family member who's expected to be flexible, understanding, and accommodating. You're the one people come to when they need something, and you're probably the one who gets frustrated looks when you can't fix everyone's problems. So being the reasonable one is emotionally and mentally draining. You're constantly managing not just your own emotions and needs, but you're also anticipating and accommodating everyone else's. You've probably become expert at reading micro-expressions, sensing tension, and adjusting your own behaviour to keep the peace. This role might have earned you lots of praise and appreciation growing up, but it's also likely left you feeling invisible and resentful. Your needs get pushed aside because you're so good at managing without complaining, and then you feel guilty for even noticing that imbalance. Here's your permission to stop being the family's emotional manager. You can care about your family without being responsible for their emotional well-being. You can be supportive without sacrificing your own needs. And you can love someone while still saying no to their requests. The goal isn't to become rigid or harsh. It's about rebuilding trust with yourself by honouring your own needs and limits. When you consistently override your own boundaries to accommodate others, you send yourself the message that your needs don't matter. And over time, this erodes your trust and self-worth. Rebuilding trust in yourself starts small. Maybe it's saying no to one family member dinner when you're genuinely exhausted, or declining to mediate a conflict between other family members. Each time you honour a reasonable boundary, you strengthen the relationship you have with yourself. It's also about learning to sit with the discomfort that comes when other people aren't happy with your choices, and remembering that this discomfort is temporary, but the self-respect you build by sticking to reasonable boundaries is lasting. Remember, healthy boundaries actually improve relationships over time. So when you stop overextending yourself and building resentment, you actually are able to show up more authentically. And when you stop enabling these dependent behaviours, you give others opportunity to develop their own coping skills. Okay, let's address that chronic over-responsibility that keeps so many of us trapped in unhealthy family dynamics. Over-responsibility shows up as feeling accountable for other people's emotions, problems, and reactions. It's the belief that if someone is upset, it's somehow your job to fix it. For me, over-responsibility started early. If my mum was struggling, it quickly became my problem, and she'd say things like, I don't know how I'll cope if you don't help me, or I suppose I'll just have to manage on my own then, sort of guilt-tripping me. So I'd cancel my plans to take her shopping or lend her money that I couldn't really afford, or step in to fix things, not because it felt like the right thing to do, but because I felt responsible for her distress. And over time, my nervous system learned a clear rule: if she's unhappy, I've done something wrong, and it must be my job to make it better. This often develops when we grow up in families where emotional roles are unclear, where we become the caretaker, peacemaker, or problem solver before we're developmentally ready for those roles. And as adults, we continue this pattern, taking on responsibility for other things that aren't actually ours to manage. So breaking free from chronic over-responsibility means learning to distinguish between what's yours and what belongs to someone else. Other people's emotions, not your responsibility to manage. Other people's problems, not yours to solve unless specifically asked and you choose to help. Other people's reactions to your boundaries, definitely not your responsibility to control. And that doesn't mean that you become cold or uncaring. It means caring in healthier ways that don't deplete your own emotional reserves or prevent others from developing their own resilience. Setting boundaries with family is challenging because it involves changing long-established patterns and roles, and your family system has operated a certain way for many years, possibly decades. And when you start changing your part in that system, of course there's going to be ripple effects. Expect some pushback, some confusion, some attempts to pull you back into the old patterns, And that isn't necessarily malicious, it's just how systems work. And when one part changes, the whole system has to adjust. And that feels uncomfortable for everyone involved. The beautiful thing is that when you start honouring your needs and limits, you model healthy behaviour for everyone around you. You give others permission to have boundaries too, and you create the possibility for more authentic, balanced relationships. Your worth isn't determined by how much you can do for others or how little you need yourself. You deserve relationships where your needs matter, where you can be honest about your limits, and where love isn't conditional on your ability to fix everyone else's problems. This journey takes time, practice, and usually some professional support. So be patient with yourself as you learn to navigate these changes. The guilt will lessen, the boundaries will get easier to maintain, and your relationships will ultimately become healthier and more sustainable. You're not responsible for managing everyone else's emotional experience, but you are responsible for honouring your own needs and treating yourself with the same compassion you show others. And that's not selfish, that's actually the foundation of healthy relationships and sustainable love.